Hello and welcome back to the Grueling Truth. I'm Joe Spilman along with Ryan Peters. And tonight we're going to give you the best betting tips for the Monaco Grand Prix, the Indy 500, and the Coca-Cola 600. Ryan, before we get into our best bets though, I want to remind everybody that the Grueling Truth is powered by betting.net. Betting.net is your best bet for finding online casinos and sportsbooks that's right for you. Now, Ryan, we're going to talk about the Monaco Grand Prix, the Indy 500, and the Coca-Cola 600, and the best betting tips that you have found and I have seen. And before we get into that, though, I kind of want to discuss why betting on auto racing can be so fun and really make the race interesting, whatever race you might be watching, a little bit more interesting. As you know, sometimes NASCAR races and even IndyCar races can get a bit monotonous. And when you got skin in the game, it makes it a lot, you're a lot more astute to the action that's going on. However, most of the time with betting odds in auto racing, you're always looking at plus odds. So even the favorite to win a race is normally at plus odds. Like I think right now, Kyle Busch, I believe, is still plus 550 to win the Coca-Cola 600, which means a $10 bet on him will actually pay out $65. You'll win $55 on that $10 bet. So NASCAR is unique to other sports that you don't necessarily have to break the bank to walk away with a pretty decent payday if you get lucky enough to win. So having said that, you want to move right on into the Monaco Grand Prix and what we're looking at for betting odds this weekend?
Yeah, I think I'm Joe, because I think, you mentioned it. We're going to give one way to win, and that's at the beginning with straight odds to win these races, and you can pick a draw it throughout this race, and maybe he can make you some money. Also, towards the end of the show, with the way that NASCAR does different things on FanDuel and DraftKings, which are sites obviously used by betting.net, I'm going to show you a way you can use 5 drivers, and if having one driver is enough stress to try to follow for 600 laps and hope that he gets to the finish, now you can root for 5 others. Really excited if they end up finishing the right way, or, more often than not, get upset whenever some crazy circumstance happens where they wreck, and then you throw stuff against the wall and, things get a little bit crazy. But as much as I love motorsports, I love making money even more. And, my little Mr. Krabs moniker, that's what I'm going for this weekend.
Okay. So when we look, when we look at the Monaco Grand Prix, which is like the Daytona 500 for F1, the Indy 500 for F1, it's essentially their year's biggest race. But in true F1 fashion, from what I saw going into the race tomorrow, of course you have, I guess Ferrari, Ferrari won the pole, 1-2, and then Red Bull is 3-4. And just looking at,
but there's a caveat
right
to that. I didn't mean to cut you off, Joe. There's a caveat to that because there was a wreck. Sergio Perez did wreck. No way that they're not going to have to fix his car and do the park permits. If you do anything to fix your car outside of practice, you do have to get penalized on the grid. So that comes with a caveat. I just wanted to throw there.
Right. So what I really want to bring up about the F1 at Monaco is Leclerc is on the pole, Charles Leclerc. And one of the only times you will see minus odds for the favorite in auto racing is in F1. And he is minus 280 to win the race, which is unheard of to me for auto racing. So one thing we like to do is, since we're looking for a big payout in auto racing, is we're going to look at the best drivers in some games that you can play on FanDuel that you can bet $10 or $15 and look for a huge payday. When looking at FanDuel, Ryan, is there anything on FanDuel that sticks out at you with the F1 race?
Yeah, especially you were talking F1. That's the only sport, in my opinion, on motorsport minus odds. That's just the way it is. I mean, especially on this track you mentioned, it's going to be a train. It's just going to be car following the next car following the next car, because there's just nowhere to pass on these tight straightaways and on these turns, unlike an actual track. So when you're making your bet, you need to make it on what you already know. I think that's really important at Monaco. We already know where these guys are going to start. And if you don't think somebody has a chance to win, what I like to do is I'll do podium bets because I feel like I'm giving myself at least a % chance versus a 1 in 20 chance, for this guy to get 1 through 3. So Lando Norris is plus 3,600 to win this race. I actually like that. I think things can happen where he may have a chance. But if I want to walk away from 9 o'clock in the morning with a little bit of money to maybe spend in the line, I'm going to put plus 300 for him to get a podium tomorrow for Lando Norris. He's got to pass one driver. That's it. And things happen in this race. Literally, he could do that as soon as the green flag or the lights go out, and you're sitting at plus 300. I don't think there's another sport, especially in Formula One, where you could do that and it'd be literally that simple. And you have a pretty good, as long as no crazy shit happens, you just got plus 300 odds and, made yourself $30.
Right. Yeah. And so, what on average, I know a lot of people like to wager. I mean, you can tell that by the amount of people that buy scratch-off tickets. Now, if you look at Lando Norris to win the race, according to DraftKings right now, he's at plus 500 odds. Now, is it likely that he's going to be able to pass 3 positions on this racetrack and take over the first position and win this race? It's probably not likely. And it's probably not likely he's going to beat a Red Bull or a Ferrari car. However, it is a possibility.
Did you say Lando Norris is plus 500 on DraftKings?
Yeah, to win.
Wow.
Plus 5,000. Excuse me.
I was going to say,
excuse me.
What do they know that I don't know?
Yeah, no, good catch. Excuse me. Plus 5,000. So, you can, at plus 5,000 odds, you could bet $10 and get a $60 payout and win $50 if he happens to win that race. Now, here's the caveat to that. If you spend $5 or $10 on a scratch-off ticket, I think you're at like 12,000 to 1 odds to win $50 on a scratch-off ticket, and people freely will hand over $10 bill after $10 bill to try to make some quick cash on a scratch-off ticket. So I say, why don't you look into betting on auto racing? Your odds are much, much higher. So, I think, with that, George Russell's at plus 10,000. I don't know if he has a shot. What's he looking at the podium?
Been the best out of this. And again, this really comes down. Is there going to be a penalty for Carlos Sainz and for Sergio Perez? You said they only have to pass a couple guys. Qualifying.
Right.
Where guys aren't running right next to you. Those two hit each other turn. It can happen just like that. And all of a sudden you go from, man, he's got to pass 4 guys. God, now the leader just has to blow a tire or something. And that's definitely possible. If I'm going to bet a Mercedes right now, the most consistent driver for Mercedes by far has been Russell. And, I thought about betting making it a little bit easier, and you can actually bet on the manufacturer, which would be Mercedes, to win the race. And that brings it down just a little bit, but it's not a lot. And I think, to me, why not give yourself a chance with both Lewis Hamilton and George Russell, and you're only taking like a 300-odd hit.
So, so George Russell on DraftKings right now is plus 500 for a podium finish. What did you say that Lando Norris was on FanDuel for a podium, plus 330?
Just 300. It was 300.
Okay. He's plus 290 on DraftKings. So, if I was looking to make some money and risk little money for a high reward, those would actually be 2 drivers that I would be looking at for Monaco tomorrow. Of course, you want to, if you are going to bet on those races, you want to do it quickly because that race does start at 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. So we don't have too much longer before that race kicks off. Do we have anything else that you want to add to the F1 race?
No, at the end of the day, I don't like betting on the favorite in motorsports when it comes to Formula One. Even if they win, Joe, It's too
Right.
much of a risk. There's too much things that can happen in motorsports to where it just isn't worth your time to bet minus 250, in my opinion. I just don't
Right.
like that. I want to take a low amount of money to try to win a lot. I view betting on Formula One like trying to win a parlay. My chances of winning that parlay very high? No, but damn, I'm gonna be really happy if I do, and I don't have to bet nearly as much money to feel good about it and not sacrifice losing, because I'm gonna have to bet $300 on the winner to make anything versus if you really want to, you can bet $25 and come off really good.
Right. Yeah, exactly. And so I do want to remind everybody that's watching, if you have any questions about the upcoming odds for tomorrow's races, any of them, feel free to comment or give us your opinion or your advice. We appreciate that. Let's move on to the Indy 500, and this is something that actually gets me really talkative and really exciting because we got some drivers in the Indy 500 that could absolutely win tomorrow. And
Right.
to me, they have astronomical odds. And anytime I see that, kind of like the All-Star race, when you have this past weekend, when you have somebody that's already in the All-Star race and they got plus 50,000 odds, it's like you have to bet on that person. Are they going to
Yep.
win? Probably not. But I'll risk I'll risk $10 just in case. So as we move into the Indy 500 and talking about some of the driver prop lines and race lines that we have there, tell me what you see on FanDuel.
On FanDuel, the things that I like right now is Takuma Sato. He's at plus 1,900. Again, that's a guy that does really good at this track. We talked a little bit about this on our other show, the Indy 500 show. So if you want to hear a really good in-depth conversation about a lot of these picks, that's a great place to look and listen to that. But he's the guy that catches my eye a lot. And then I just don't see how you don't throw a little bit of cash on Helio Castroneves. I mean, the guy literally could make history tomorrow and be known as one. He could be up there with the Andretti's when you talk about the Indy 500 if he finds a way to win tomorrow. And I just don't see the pedigree and the rap sheet that you're going to find with any other driver in this field, plus get 2,800 odds. So that's the guy that I'm going for. And then one that I actually placed money on, and that's just because I'm going with my heart. I got $5 on Connor Daly to win me $250. Why not? He's from Noblesville, Indiana. He's just got as good a shot as anybody else. Things can happen in this motorsport. So I'm all about storybook things. I think this would be something that people talk about, especially Pat McAfee. I think he would have a heart attack if that ended up happening, if Connor Daly ended up winning. So I got 5 on him. It has absolutely no analysis other than the fact that he's an Indiana boy, and it'd make a good story.
Very good. I have to agree with you. So Helio Castroneves right now is plus 2,800 on DraftKings as well to win the race, and plus 800 to podium. So to finish in the top 3. And those odds to me are kind of mind-boggling. When I wrote the top 5 best bets article for the Grueling Truth on the Indy 500 this week, I'm still surprised that a 4-time winner of the Indy 500, the last year's winner, is at plus 2,800 odds. And he absolutely has as good a chance, I think, as anybody to win this race. When you look at any form of auto racing except F1, we have to caveat that with F1. There are so many variables. There's a lot of variables in F1 too, but with IndyCar, we're talking about an oval style track. I know it's a rectangle, Ryan, but we're talking about a rectangle. We're talking about a circular track.
And in auto racing, this has corners.
Yeah, they're turning left, and there's no right turns in this race, except out of your pit box. And I think that you have to be absolutely crazy not to, if you're inclined to bet, not to throw 10 or 20 bucks on Helio Castroneves. A $10 bet on Helio Castroneves to win the Indy 500 on DraftKings pays out $290. So you get your 280 that you win and your 10 bucks back. That's astronomical odds to me for somebody that I would consider an absolute favorite. And, just echo what you said, Takuma Sato, Sato, however you say his name. is at plus 1,600 on DraftKings to win. He has an absolute chance to win the race. And I know his odds are a little higher or a little lower than Helio Castroneves, but to me, those are really high odds too for somebody that absolutely has a chance to win the race. Jimmy Johnson is at plus 1,600. So we're looking at a rookie and a past winner with the same odds. It's crazy to me. So
Yeah.
at the end of the day, there is you can bet on 5 different drivers, spend $50 and still win your money back and take home some at the end of the day. Now, I do right now DraftKings isn't showing. They normally show they'll have competition bet, driver prop bets between drivers and who's going to finish higher. They're not showing that for the Indy 500 right now. I don't know why. They normally do for Indy races. All I can bring up right now is the winner, top 3 finish, and top 5 finish. But Helio Castroneves has to be your guy if you're looking to make some good money with an absolute chance to win in the Indy 500.
Yeah, I just don't see in any other sport to compare this to kind of like NASCAR, on restrictor plate tracks, you have a chance with any driver because they're all going all out and the draft is so much used. That's what happens in the Indy 500. No, you're not going to be 4 wide going in, but at the end of the day, these guys aren't letting off the gas and they rely on their, the pass to push and also the what Steve linked it into our other discussion, the toe, which is essentially just the draft. And you'll see these guys, they set it up perfectly to where they can move 3 or 4 spots at a time. So you're using downforce and aerodynamics to get you spots because everybody's essentially going the same speed. And you don't have to worry about, throttle time, using your brake. You're just hauling balls throughout the entire course. So I like to bet on the higher odds guys in these types of races. And again, you're going to hear me because I don't spend a lot of money on gambling. I'm not going to be that's like trying to put my car payment on here and then trying to find a way to pay off my mortgage. I'm a guy that likes to do this. Gas is $4.50. Walk away by watching something that I absolutely love and get a chance to pay for my gas for the week. That to me is how I gamble. If you do it more than that, that's fine. You're just not going to hear from probably me or Joe going to say, hey, throw the house on this.
Yeah, I don't condone that at all. I think if you're going to gamble responsibly. It can be very fun to do, especially on auto racing, and that's why go ahead.
No, I was going to say, if you want to do that, build yourself up a bankroll first where you're betting on house money. Don't just go out and just throw $200 on something real quick, with and just lose it like that because, number one, you won't like betting that way because it makes you sick to your stomach. And number 2, your chances of winning are, slim and none at the beginning. So, do smart.
Well, and at the end of the day, when you're talking about IndyCar and NASCAR specifically, your chances of winning are already at underdog odds. And I've said this before, when you look at auto racing, everybody is normally at plus odds except for F1, and that's usually the guy on the pole. Everybody's at plus odds. So in the world of sports, in the world of making sports wagers, if you're at plus odds, you're the underdog. Like Scott Dixon's at plus 550 to win the Indy 500. He's still the underdog to win the Indy 500. He's just less of an underdog than the other 32 cars in the race. So that's kind of how I look at it. When you're willing to make these bets, you got to understand that the probability of you winning is probably low. But when you risk little money, the reward on these races is so much higher than you'll find in any other sport. And that's what makes it fun. This is the what we're talking about and the advice that, we want to give people and just, kind of give the odds for the races. It's not, I'm not recommending that you go out and try to make your next house payment by betting the $400 that you got left in your bank account. I would say if you're there, probably steer away from gambling in the first place. But if you got the extra 25, 30, 40 bucks that you want to throw down on one of these races or all of these races and make the race a little bit more fun and interactive for you, I would absolutely tell you to do that. So when talking about the Indy 500, Ryan, do you think there's anything else that we need to cover?
Not really. Again, my strategy is always I'd rather place my bets out like you're talking about on 3 or 4 different guys, knowing that if any of them hit, I'm in the plus, no matter what. That's just the way it is. If I have $10 here, $10 here, $10 here, lowest you can even win, and that's betting the favorite, is $55. So I would rather spread my cash out, my bankroll out that way. That's what I suggest. I'm not big into the prop bets on the Indy 500. I'd rather just allocate my money across the different avenues, throughout the entire thing, and hopefully strike gold on one of those higher odd guys.
Exactly. Well, let's move into talking about the Coca-Cola 600 and NASCAR, Ryan. But before we do that, I do want to remind everybody that the Grueling Truth is powered by Betting.net. Betting.net is your best bet for finding an online casino or sports book that's right for you. Also, in the description of this video, you can find a link to FanDuel and DraftKings if you take into account anything that we say, or you think, hey, that's a good idea. I want to throw a $10 wager on that driver. Click the link on whatever you want to go to, FanDuel or DraftKings, and make a wager. So, Ryan, let's get into NASCAR. And is there anything that sticks out to you with the Coca-Cola 600 on FanDuel currently?
The only thing, FanDuel actually took all their odds off right now, so I can't see anything for tomorrow's race. I'm guessing because it's late at night, they'll pop it back up. So the only thing I can do is allude to you on the actual race itself. But we'll talk about the race odds after you talk about here in just a second what you're seeing on DraftKings. And then I'll kind of steer it a little bit of a different direction to where we can have a little bit of fun with more than one driver.
Right. Yeah. So I'll talk about DraftKings real quick. And the one thing that I see is I believe, and a lot of times, like I write the article every week, top 5 best bets on whatever race is gonna, taking place that week, whether it be the All-Star race or this week, the Coca-Cola 600. And just a little bit, if you're wondering, if you read that article and you're wondering where I come up with those picks, I look at a couple different things when I make these picks, because I do try to get the article out by Friday every week. And obviously, I don't normally get to see qualifying. So, I don't even normally get to see a truck race or an Xfinity race before I write these to see what the track's even looking like or what it's doing. But what I try to do is I try to look at who is hot right now, who's got good speed. And the other thing I look at is what have these drivers historically done on the track that they're going to, or like tracks. So if you're talking about a 1.5 mile track that has average banking, like a Charlotte Motor Speedway, I'll look at what they've done at like a Kentucky Speedway and see, where they finished there and how they've competed there. And then
or even more recently, Kansas. I mean, it's a pretty close to similar track.
So, and then I'll look at what their odds are throughout the week, because odds do change because things happen, and that will change odds. So, and I look at their odds currently. Now, one thing I don't normally like to do is pick the favorite, but sometimes the favorite you almost have to pick. So, because it's more than likely he's going to win the race. And this week, or even if you go back to Wednesday, Kyle Busch on DraftKings was the favorite to win the race at plus 550 odds. Now, Kyle Busch is the co-favorite to win this race with Martin Truex Jr., and they're both at plus 650 odds. So, and that just changed after qualifying. And one thing that I look at with the Coca-Cola 600 in particular, and the driver I think you have to keep an eye on tomorrow, is Kurt Busch. He is absolutely hot right now. And Kurt Busch, I think he qualified second today. He has great speed, and he's at plus 1,600 odds. So I don't know how you don't throw a $10 bet on Kurt Busch to win this race at plus 1,600 odds when he's hot. His last couple of races, he's ran really good races. He finally got his first win of the 2022 season, and he's at plus 1,600 odds. So that's a driver that if you're going to pick one driver in this race and say, I'm going to risk $10 and I'm going to try to make as much money as possible, I think Kurt Busch is your guy.
Yeah, I agree with that. And maybe they have this on DraftKings. Do they have a manufacturer odds that you can look up, Joe?
They do.
What is Toyota at right now? Because right now they're dominating in qualifying.
Race-winning manufacturer Toyota is plus 135. Chevrolet's at plus 120, so they're not even the favorite.
Yeah, I would probably, if I want to make a safe bet tomorrow and I'm just looking to double up and get a little bit of change on top of it, that's probably what I'm looking at. Toyota's been fast on 1.5 miles. That's just all there is to it. Kind of going back to what you said, Joe, you make that article earlier. It depends on how much you like to gamble. And I mean, gambling upon gambling. You could have bet Denny Hamlin and probably had plus 750 odds on a certain site because you think Denny Hamlin's really on 1.5 miles. He wins the poll today, and guarantee you his odds went down. I mean, that's just the way it is. He's probably now, and if you could have made yourself a little bit extra cash. But it's a gamble upon the odds, but you're using it based on statistic and analysis versus what if you want to wait till, this evening, now you have an idea because these cars have been on the track. So you have an idea who actually is on the here and now, not the past. The guy, and Joe, I hope you're sitting down.
I am.
The guy, if I wanted to take a long bet, and I know this is completely against me, I'm going to say Bubba Wallace. They've been running fast at 1.5 miles. He was in the top 10 all at Kansas. He qualified in the top 10 for this race. He's got the same manufacturer as Kurt Busch. Crazy stuff can happen. And if you want to throw a bet, a high odd bet, I think Bubba Wallace definitely has a chance because he will not be placed like a top 10 driver on the odds. I guarantee it.
I got a question.
Go ahead, sir.
Are you taking into account that there is a very high probability that Bubba Wallace doesn't even finish the race? Do you take that into account?
I do take that into account. But again, I'm basing it on anything else besides trying to win you money, Joe. This is where the wallet and the head have to change. Tell me what his odds are. You have it. I don't. Yeah, I guarantee you he's probably 14th, if I was guessing.
What'd you say? He's probably what?
14th best odds. That would be my guess.
I think he's actually a little bit higher than that. He's outside of the. I think I'm not going to sit here and count him. I will just tell you what his odds are. He's plus 5,000 to win. He's plus 1,400 to finish in the top 3, and he's plus 500 to finish in the top 5, according to DraftKings. Now, I would almost take the plus 1,400 just to finish in the top 3. If I was going to go in that direction. Now, personally, what I've seen out of Bubba Wallace this season, other than his super speedway finishes, which there's no denying that he can race on a super speedway. But what I've seen out of him, I don't know that I would risk money on that. If it would have been the All-Star race, I would have. But his odds were actually a little bit better. I don't know that I do that. I don't know that I risk $10 on Bubba Wallace, but
he ran top 10 at Kansas, and he ran good previously. And I'm defending Bubba Wallace. It's his pit crew that sucks. His pit crew is awful. Kurt Busch's pit crew is awful. I'm just saying, if the stars align and crazy stuff happens, you could see. The plus 1,400 is really good. I love the plus 500 for him to move up 4 spots in the race to the top finish.
Right.
Again, you're talking plus 500 up for somebody that's not used to NASCAR bet. That would be like the 12 seed beating the 5 seed in the NCAA tournament. It's about the odds that you're going to get for a guy to move up 4 spots.
Yeah, and I'm just giving you a little, shit over that. Really, at the end of the day,
don't give me a lot of shit.
Bubba Wallace?
That's a little.
Yeah. Can Bubba Wallace win the race? Probably not, but he could. He could. If we get a little rain tomorrow, and it's delayed and they cut it off with 70 laps to go, and he happens to be out front on a caution, Bubba Wallace can absolutely win that race. And the plus 5,000 odds are great. So, that's not a bad long shot bet to me. I think Bubba Wallace, especially in the top 3, is something that I would probably bet on. I'm not going to, but I would. That wouldn't be a bad bet at all. I agree.
All right. So Now I want to try to shift gears to something I play quite a bit, and that is getting 5 drivers on FanDuel. You can do this on DraftKings. The only reason I choose FanDuel is because it's the first thing that I set up. So it was easier for me to set up FanDuel. So whatever you like, DraftKings, just listen to me and see what the difference is in driver salaries. But essentially what you can do, there's 2 different types of tournaments you can play in. You can play in a tournament or you can play in cash games. A tournament, there's going to be a whole bunch of people in there, and you got to separate yourself with the best lineup. A cash game, it's going to be a lower amount of people in there. You want to have essentially a stronger base, a stronger foundation. So we're going to go through this. If you've played any type of fantasy basketball, any type of fantasy football, God knows there's a ton of people that play fantasy football on DraftKings and FanDuel. This is the same thing with NASCAR. So the things that you have to pay attention to is you get 0.1 points for laps completed, 0.1 for laps led, and then the most important thing, to me, when I'm setting my lineup, is place differential. You get half a point for each spot your driver finishes compared to where he started. So I went ahead and I already made 2 lineups that I wanted to share with you guys. And forgive me for not looking at the screen because I'm actually trying to go off my board, my computer here, which Joe knows I actually never use. So I went ahead and made 2 lineups, and one of them is for a tournament and one of them is for a cash game. And I'll go ahead and explain why. The guy that's highest salary-wise, he's at $14,500. Joe, you said you never like to bet the favorite. I'm a guy that never likes to play the highest guy, considering that the second highest guy is at $13,500. Excuse me, at $14,000 in Kyle Busch. The reason you have to play Kyle Larson if you're doing a lineup tomorrow. He hit the wall in practice. He did not qualify. He's going to start 36. Now, remember what I just told you. You get a half a point for every spot that he advances up. It's almost impossible that he goes lower, okay? So you get a half a point for each spot that he finishes higher than where he qualified. So if he finishes in the top 10, he just got you 26 different, a free 23 or a free 12 and a half points, which is the difference in like a finishing position of 10 points. So you have to play Kyle Larson. That's just the way it is. Then it gets a little bit murky. So, Joe, now we're going on what you and I just talked about when it goes to qualifying. So the guys that I'm looking at right now, teams that with speed that didn't qualify, that did qualify great. And this is I think I said it's my tournament line. This is my cash line. So I want to take that back. So I'm going for Toyotas. I want a strong baseline. Martin Truex Jr. starts 14th tomorrow. I like that. Had speed. Joe Gibbs has speed. Martin Truex Jr. is good at mile and a half. Give me the guy that I think has a chance to finish top 5. Just didn't have a good qualifying session. Next, we're going to go to the guy you talked about, Kurt Busch. He's starting second. I'm not going to get a lot of points for finishing or for him gaining spots. But I feel like I'm going to get a really good finish out of Kurt Busch tomorrow because he's fast. He's at 8,500, so that's really good. I mean, that's 6,000 lower than Kyle Larson. Then I'm going to go with Christopher Bell. He's at 9,500. Starting third. Again, the Toyotas are fast. Christopher Bell's had good finishing, so I'm going to go ahead and throw him out there. Now I'm to the point where I need some cash because I went Kyle Larson, Martin Truex, Kurt Busch, and Christopher Bell. There's not a lot of middle there. It's mainly up top with my lineup. So I went with Justin Haley. He had a really good run at 1 mile and a half. Actually ended up finishing third. He's at 4,500. He's starting in 20th place. If he ends up giving me 5 spots, I'm completely happy with that because I think my foundation will do more than enough to make up for it. And there's a chance that Kurt Busch leads a lot of laps tomorrow, and that's going to give me some extra points too where I can play with that.
For sure.
So now going to my tournament lineup, and this is where you got to get a little bit more risky because, again, you're trying to set yourself differently than thousands of other people, okay? There might be only a couple hundred in your cash game lineup, okay? So you want to have a strong floor right in the middle at the very worst. Now you're trying to set yourself up in the final 8%, a lot of money. So a lot of times on my tournament lineups, I'm going completely for starting position. because I want to find a way that these guys at the bottom work their way to the top, and I might throw one guy that I think, Joe, that can win the race. Otherwise, I literally primarily from starting position. Well, I already told you who my first guy is going to be. It's going to be Kyle Larson. He's going to be in every single lineup that I have. And the problem is everybody else is going to have Kyle Larson. You have to. You can't be the one that doesn't take Kyle Larson and he gets the top 5 because you lost. That's just the way it is. You end up losing. My favorite, that's Denny Hamlin. Denny Hamlin, he's priced at 11.5, 1,000 below Kyle Larson. And he's starting on the pole. 1.5 racer. You know, you risk if something happens, he finishes lower than that and he loses you a few points that way. But he's got to run a lot of laps. I mean, think about this. This is 600 miles. He could go out and run 50 laps tomorrow, lead 150 laps. And that's most races is 150 laps. He could do that and, only be % through this race. So he gets 5 points. Now we're going to go on position where they started. Ross Chastain's starting 22nd tomorrow. Nothing about Ross Chastain's speed that I think he's going to finish below 22nd. I think that's a top 12 driver, if not higher. So I'm picking Ross Chastain. I got Ricky Stenhouse. He's starting 29th. He's at 7,000. I feel like that's a good middle of the road. He's been running decent. There just has to be faster than the 29th best car. Right now, there's only 36 cars in NASCAR. There's a ton of at the bottom to where he can finish higher than 29th. I like that one. And then hold on to your butts again. 5,500. This is a guy I pretty much think you have to have in your lineup too. He's starting Brad Keselowski. Does Brad have speed? No, but I feel like he should be 20th. He finishes 20th. That gains you 15 spots. So those are the two lineups I'm going with. Joe, I've said a lot of stuff. Do you have any questions when the lineups here?
No, and that is those two games are particular games to FanDuel. DraftKings actually doesn't offer those. What they offer is driver prop bets in stage winners, which I do believe FanDuel has stage winners as well. Correct?
Not on nothing that I've seen. Actually, I haven't seen that. They do the pod. They do the pod stuff that you were talking about, where you can pick, do you want this driver or this driver? Click. Do you want this driver? Okay. Do you want Joey Logano or Kyle Busch? Which one's going to finish higher?
Right.
Click. And you kind of do like 5 of those.
Right. Yeah. DraftKings doesn't really offer that. And, and that is not necessarily, that sounds like a fun game to play. And there's a lot going on there. And there's a lot of thought that you have to put into that. And, I don't want to say that that's probably not the game for me. It's just, I'm a straight, who has the best chance to win, all or nothing type of guy. But that's what's great about both FanDuel and DraftKings. And I think Caesars is another good place to Caesars Sportsbook is another good place to make auto racing bets on. Is every sportsbook, whether DraftKings, Caesars, FanDuel, they all have different games that you could play. So if you're looking for a particular game or you're looking for a particular idea of how you want to bet, that is, you pick up your preferred sportsbook. Like mine's DraftKings, obviously Ryan's is FanDuel. But if you need help with it, you could always head over to betting.net and they'll point you in the right directions to show you what sportsbook or casino is right for you. But no, I really don't have any questions. I think I picked up on that. And I just want to kind of caveat what you said about Brad Keselowski there. Brad Keselowski is a driver that has started, in 30th, 28th, 30th all season. But sometimes most races he works his way into the top 20. So if you
he's been running better right now. I mean, He's actually been running decent. Him and Chris Busch are both.
So you get a half point. So I understand that. Out of your 5 drivers, you get a half point for every position they overtake. So if Keselowski starts, what's he starting 32nd, you said?
35th. He's starting right in front of Kyle Larson.
Okay, so 35th. And even if he works his way up to the 23rd position, you're looking, what is that, 5.5, 6 points there?
It's an extra Yeah, you're going to get 6, and you also get points for where you finish, obviously. So it's higher, but it's only like 1 point after you get past the top 5. So you imagine you're getting 6 points because he advanced some, and then you might as well throw that he finished 6 spots higher than where he actually even finished because he's giving you that differential and where he made up from where he qualified. And to me, when you play these games, that's where you get your floor, is by picking guys that you know aren't going to finish that low unless something happens. If you pick all the favorites, Joe, Denny Hamlin wrecks on the first lap, you just got negative
Right.
negative 18 points at the very beginning, and that risk really isn't worth the reward in a tournament, because you want to set yourself up for crazy things to happen. Those 4 of your top 5 get in the top 10, you're going to make a lot of money.
And for sure, when you're talking about auto racing, the Indy 500 and the Coca-Cola 600 in particular, I can assure you some crazy things are going to happen. That's the nature of auto racing, and that's why auto racing pays out so well. You risk little money, and the reward is very high. So, do you think that there's anything that we're missing or we forgot maybe to pass on to anybody that's listening?
The only thing that I would say, you do this, just as a disclaimer, like myself, I have to root Keselowski tomorrow, and if you don't think you can money behind that because you might throw something just in case he already wrecks, that may not be the game for you. Because if you don't like a driver, you put money behind said driver, and then that driver wrecks, not only set, but it's like times 1,000. He literally took money out of your pocket because of his inept driving. So, yeah, that's the only thing. No, it's fun. It's a way to enjoy a race. Again, it's something that's going to be 3 to 4 hours long. Joe, you want your guy to win. I want 5 of my guys to finish well. And it's a game inside of a game, because not only am I looking for my favorite driver, I'm looking for these guys to hopefully make me some money. And, it's a great way to play. Also, you're not breaking the bank to do this. I won the other day. I spent $12.75. I had a really good day.
Yeah.
I didn't think about the money the entire time. I literally was thinking about how I'm rooting for said driver. I have to do. Oh, he had a shitty pit stop. Well, I'm going to just tune that guy out. He sucks. It's fun.
Well, Ryan, one thing I've learned is even when you don't like a driver, if you put money on him and win, he becomes one of your favorite drivers. So
Michael McDowell, baby, Daytona 500.
Yeah, at the end of the day, if you put money on a driver, you're going to root for him, and if he wins you money, you're going to be a fan. So I want to thank everybody for joining in to listen to the best betting tips for the Monaco GP Grand Prix, Indy 500, and the Coca-Cola 600. As always, the Grueling Truth is powered by Betting.net. Betting.net is your best bet for finding an online casino and sportsbook that's right for you. Ryan, have fun at the Indianapolis 500 tomorrow, and we'll see you at the post-race show.